Hey everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Perseverance Maremeni, also known as Madam Speaker. If you're joining in for the first time, you are welcome. Please hit the subscribe button, also like, share, and comment. So today we're going to be speaking about having a child who looks exactly like your ex, who has hurt you, and having to grow up and also having to love that child because that is your child, that is the son of your womb or the daughter of your womb. Having to love that child and raise them in a balanced manner, in a sense that you should not be having a favorite, or that child who looks like your ex should not be your least favorite child. How do you do that? It's a topic that is never spoken about, but we know that there's a lot of people who are victims of that. So a little story, background story, before I can actually go ahead with my story for today about having a child that looks like your ex. I think sometime last year, around this time, there was a lady who joined my life and she was crying, saying that her mother is toxic, her mother mistreats her, and her mother doesn't treat her well compared to her siblings. It seems like she hates her. And also she went as far as saying to her that I wish you were dead, I wish you were never alive. I wish you were not here because you ruined my life. So she never understood why her mother hated her so much. So many times she attempted to commit suicide because she felt like her mother doesn't love her, So she asked me, she came here and she was crying about it, saying, you know what? I don't know what to do with this. I feel like taking sleeping tablets and just dying because this woman has 3 kids. I'm the firstborn, but she doesn't love me, and she makes it obvious that I'm not her favorite and there's absolutely nothing that she wants to do with me. How do I deal with that? So because back then I didn't have the information that I have now and the life experience that I have now, I didn't have a lot that I could tell her. All I could say to her was that try and get counseling, try and get social workers to intervene, also fast and pray about it, because I was only responding from my experience, and I believe that by then my experiences were very much limited, or they were limited. I had limited experience in that department, so I couldn't give her straight answers that I wish she could ask those questions again, then she would get her answers today, okay? Because when I thought about that lady's story, I actually thought about it this year when I had to deal with my son, then I realized that, this is a topic that needs to be discussed. This is something that needs to be spoken about because we take it for granted. But at the end of the day, that is what is going to cause childhood traumas to our kids. That is the one thing that's going to affect our kids and how they become adults who are broken because of things which are small, because we don't pay attention to detail. If you have a kid who looks exactly like your ex and you see the need to always say to a child, you look like your useless father, you are just like him, you are this and that. Those things, you are saying them because you're angry, but as an adult, you say those things, you even forget that you said those things to your child, but at the end of the day, your child always holds those things, Your child will always remember how much you used to hate him or how much you used to always remind him that he looks like his father. So now, fast forward to last year when I was busy with my divorce proceedings, my son is a replica of my ex-husband, So throughout the divorce process, I saw the side of my ex that I felt like, this guy is evil, according to my experiences. I felt like this guy wants to see me dead. This guy wants my head on a silver platter. So with all of that information, I resented that guy. I would not even lie and say I didn't hate him because I developed so much hatred towards my ex because I felt like this guy just wants to see me dead. He actually does not want me to live to tell the story, but he wants to see me dead. But then forgetting that this was war. It was war. We were fighting. So now it got to a point where I couldn't even help my kids with homework, especially my son, because my son looks exactly like his dad. And my son also has his dad's traits, right? So there's so many things that he does that remind me of his dad. So they trigger me, I would feel the urge to say you are exactly like your dad, but I can't do that because he's a kid. He's only 7 years old. It won't even make sense to me why I must always emphasize or remind him that he's exactly like his dad, even though what he's doing is something that I do not like. So when it comes to homeworks, I couldn't handle having to help him with his homework because I just felt like he reminded me of how I would speak to his dad, and his dad would not understand and would just act like he's dumb, you know. So when I want to help him with his homework, when I want to help my son with his homework, I would now feel like, you know what, this kid is reminding me of the dad. So I was like, you know what, for me not to end up retaliating and being a terrible mother to my son for things that he didn't do, it's better I do not help him with his homework. It's better every time when I have an interaction with my kids, especially my son, would be when we are having good things, when we're going out, we're buying ice cream, we're just enjoying life. Because all the stuff which frustrates me is going to make me take out my anger of hating his dad on him, you know, and he doesn't deserve that. This is the son of my womb that I'm talking about right now. So for the whole of last year, I couldn't help my son with his homework. I had somebody who was assisting me with that. So this year, I was in a situation where I was left alone with the kids. So I had no assistant, I had nothing. Then I remembered that now I have to now do what needs to be done. I need to now assist my son with his homework. I need to do all the things that I've been avoiding to do for the sake of, you know, protecting the relationship that I have with my son. Then I remembered that this is actually what triggers me. But I was happy with the response from my own what do you call this, my emotional state of mind, because I was able to handle it well. But I had that light bulb moment, because then I remembered why I never wanted to help him with his homework, and why it is necessary for me to now start fighting that and start working on that, so that my son never has to grow up with any type of trauma which is caused by the fact that I resented his dad and he looks like his dad. So you see, because I have two kids, right? My daughter is kind of like me. Even her character is like me. So even me reprimanding her, it doesn't even say anything about the dad. It doesn't say anything about... I don't feel bad. You know, I don't feel bad because there is no trait of her dad. So me interacting with her was never a problem. So with her, I didn't have any problem. So now when I had to interact with my son, it was such a problem for me to actually, you know, reprimand my son, or with, you know, when it comes to the beautiful things, when it comes to us bonding, us singing together, us dancing, us just laughing, having a heart-to-heart conversation, it was beautiful, it was okay, it was good, you know, I was happy with that side. But now when I had to retaliate, when I had to reprimand him, when I had to discipline him, it was a big problem, because I always had an image of his dad to say, yo, this kid is doing exactly what his father used to do. Yo, this kid is frustrating me like his father used to, and he looks like his father, so it's even worse, you know. So I had to strike the balance. I was even saying yesterday that, you know what, I need to now go back to attending counseling for this very reason, because now it makes sense why parents would hate their kids, you know. Parents would neglect one kid, because I spoke to this other friend of mine who is a firstborn of three, and all the three kids, every one of them has their own father, right? They have different dads. So because him as the firstborn, his mother and his father were in good terms, and then his father passed away, so they were lovey-dovey. So even the love that the mother had for the father, it flowed over to the child. So he was his mother's favorite child, because the mother loved the father to a point of death. So they never really had a problem. But then the second one, because the father, I don't know what happened with the second one, but it was something very toxic. It was something very bad. So the mother would always shout and scream and just be a terrible mom to the second born, simply because of the second born reminds her of the father and all the terrible things that the father did. Okay. And then with the third born, it was just neutral. It was just okay. Then all of that made me realize that, you know what, this thing of having kids who are a replica of their fathers, it actually cuts deep. It's something that we speak about it in passing, we laugh about it to say, yo, when about Ropile, you know, when your kids look exactly like, they look absolutely nothing like you, they look just like their father. You know, we say that in passing, we laugh about it, but we don't realize the pain and the hurt that comes with having to be stuck if I may put it that way, I'm sorry for lack of a better word, having to stay with a kid who looks exactly like somebody who has hurt you, who looks exactly like somebody that you feel like if you were to see them, you would puke, you would throw up. So how does it now, how do you psychologically, prepare yourself to say, this is my son, I love him, I gave birth to him, but then you turn around and you look at the father, you're like, I hate you, you are a piece of scum, So it now made sense why that lady, when she cried to me about a year and a half ago to say my mom hates me so much, I don't know what I did to her, then it hit me that, listen, the mom needs healing. The mom needs healing from whatever it is that happened between her and the father of this child that he is her least favorite child, because our parents and our grandparents never really spoke. Speaking is a foreign thing. Actually, I feel like we are the first, if not the second generation, to be the outspoken generation and to speak openly about what is happening internally, So because our parents never spoke, speaking was a taboo thing to do. They never got their healing. Like people who are older than us, the generation before us and before that, they are broken because they never spoke. So meaning that if your mother hated you so much because you look like your dad who abandoned her and went and married somebody else, that means that your mother, because she never spoke openly about that, she's never going to get her healing from that. So when as a child, you grow up as a teenager, you feel neglected because you feel like your mom doesn't like you, your mom doesn't love you, and you forget that, there has to be a balance somewhere in between to say that, okay, my mom hates me, my mom doesn't love me, my mom loves my other siblings. But why is it? She just hates me because she hates me, Jay, and that is it. I want to drink sleeping tablets. I want to kill myself because my mother doesn't like me. I'm not saying this because I want to promote or I'm defending the mothers who hated their kids because of what the fathers of the kids did to them. But all I'm saying is that the generation that we are today, we are in a perfect position to heal from the perfect position to protect our kids from the same pain that we went through, and we're in a perfect position to help our parents, even if we don't have to help them by speaking openly the way that we do with each other, but we can always, reach out to our parents, because I know a lot of people who are angry at their parents because they feel like they neglected them, they feel like they never loved them compared to their siblings. But then when you take it all the way back, as an adult right now, when you look at what is happening in your own life right now, then you will get to, have a little bit of understanding to say, you know what, maybe I need to sit down with my parents, maybe I need to sit down with my mom and understand where she's coming from. And also the other thing is that when you now want to sit down with your mom, who you feel like she hated you your entire childhood because you look like your dad who ran away from her, you need to understand that you have to be patient with her, because there is nothing more painful than wanting to confront somebody who's not ready to be confronted by that which is hurting them. In as much as I have a wound in my heart, if I'm not ready to nurse that wound and get healing from that, when you want to now come and you shake me to a point where you are forcing me to now open up and you are forcing me to go get my healing that I never even signed up for at this point in time, it's not going to be an easy thing to do. For example, let's say that I was raped, and then after being raped, I conceive a child. No matter how much you can say that a child is a child of my womb, I carried that child, so I must love that child. I felt the child kick in my tummy. But as a human being, as an emotional being, as a person that has feelings and everything, psychologically that messes me up. So there's a possibility that it may mess me up to a point where I don't even want this child. It may mess me up to a point where I could have other kids after this child, but I neglect this one because she reminds me, or he reminds me, of the rape that I had to endure. Meaning that if you are a product of rape, you are a constant reminder to your mom of the pain that she felt when she was being raped. So because in the olden days people were not speaking, it's a pain which never goes away. So now I'm not saying that when as a child who comes from a mother who was raped, you are in the wrong, or you are not, well within your rights to want to have to be loved the same way as your siblings. But what I'm saying is that, remember in the olden days, even when somebody has been raped, they couldn't even attend counseling. There are so many kids who are growing up out there who are products of rape, but their mothers were forced to have them and love them, even though they were not ready to have them, and there was not even counseling for those mothers. So I need you to understand that when you feel like your mom hates you because you look like your dad, or sometimes they even go as far as reminding you look like that man, that useless man. They tell you about how useless your father was. I need you to understand that you have to go back to her. You have to confront. I know that, you know what, confrontation for us, especially black people, it's not easy, you know, on our parents, because like, who are you to, you want to question, do you have a death wish? You want to question your mother? You want to question your father? You want to confront them? You must have a death wish. You know, I know it's not an easy thing, but for the process of healing, for the sake of our own healing, because healing is a journey. It's not a one thing. It's not a one day thing. It's not an overnight thing. We are healing from so many things on a daily basis, because people think that you heal from what just happened to you now. You heal from the pain that you just endured now, or you just faced now. But in essence, healing, you start healing from your inner child. You know, so when you are going all the way back and you sit your parents down and you say that, listen, mom, listen, I felt like my entire childhood you never loved me, because you always remind me of my dad who was useless. Try to find out what is it that happened between your mom and your dad, so that you can also get your healing, in as much as your mother can actually explain to you and give you a valid reason why she had to treat you the way she did. Remember that this is somebody who's crying out for help and they don't know how to get the help, you know, because they can't attend counseling, they don't believe in that. They can't speak, they don't believe in speaking. So all they can do is just to retaliate or to react or to respond to the trauma in a way that is now hurting to you, you know. So it's always a wise thing to go back to confront the parents who have hurt you, because in as much as you feel like you have made it in life and you don't need your mother anymore, because when you needed her she was not there, and now you are grown, at the end of the day, you parking that pain, that trauma, that childhood trauma, it's not going to go away, it's not going to disappear. And you're not going to replace that trauma with success. You know, you can be so successful. You can promise yourself that I will never suffer as much as I suffered when I was still a child. You know, you can do whatever it takes to make sure that you never go back to the dumpster that you grew up in. But at the end of the day, all of that success will never make the trauma go away. All of that success will never erase everything that you went through as a child. So you have to confront it. You have to if it makes you feel better, the money that you are making now because you are successful, you should be able to use that to get the help that you need to eventually get closure and healing from the pain that you endured as a child. So me realizing that my treatment towards my child is different because my child looks like the father, that is me acknowledging that there is something that I need to heal from. So I always use myself as a point of reference, because that's how realistic I am as a human being. And most of my topics are usually based on things which I experience either directly or indirectly. So I'm raising this topic today of saying that it is necessary for you to face or deal with the pain that comes with having a child who looks like somebody that has hurt you. So I always say that you acknowledging that you need to heal from something is one thing, but you actually taking the step to get your healing from that thing is another. You know, because after I realized that, then I was so free to say that every time when I want to reprimand my child, you know, because boy kids, he's turning 8 this year, my son. Boy kids are very naughty. Then every time when I want to reprimand him and I felt the urge to hold back, I had to remind myself why it's necessary for me to do it. I had to remind myself that in as much as this child looks like the father and is behaving, some traits of his behavior are going towards the father, which is the reason why I even had to, you know, get divorced. But at the end of the day, this child is my child. And I'm not going to let my failed marriage determine how I raise my child. I'm going to do whatever it takes to be the best mother that I can be to this child, regardless of whether he looks like his father, or he looks like his grandfather, or whoever that he looks like. So I'm trying to stand in the gap between what happened to our parents and what should not happen to our kids by saying and telling my story the way it is right now. Because I know that there are so many women who are in my position, who have kids who look exactly like their exes, and they don't even know what to do with those kids. In as much as it's not everybody who's willing to admit what I'm saying to you right now, to say the fact that my child looks like my ex bothers me. The fact that my child looks like my ex makes me angry. The fact that my child looks like my ex scares me sometimes, because I'm unable to reprimand this child, because I feel like people who are looking will be saying I'm taking out my anger on the child. People who are looking will now start accusing me of not loving my child. You should be able to admit to that. Because if you do not admit to that, there is no way you are going to heal from that. There is no way you are going to heal from that. And for me, I feel like it's still very sensitive, because it's still very early. And I know that as years go by, we're going to get to a point where me and the father are in good terms. So meaning that if we are in good terms, then I won't be triggered as much as I am triggered right now with my son's behavior, which I feel like somehow it's a replica of the dad, So I feel like we need to confront our futures. We need to confront our present, so that we protect our kids from going through the same thing that we went through. And if you are here and you've been through that as a child, you grew up in a home where your mother never loved you because you feel like she was blaming you for whatever, because some people, you may find that you were born, and then after you were born, your mother tried to move on with life and find somebody else, but then that somebody else rejected her because she has a child, which is you. Then in return, your mother's reaction towards that will be that she now starts to resent you and reject you and just hate you. So I encourage us to confront the future, the now, and also the past, because you have packed things. Because if you know that you have that you are coming from that background, you knowing about it and you being able to speak about it, to say, I grew up in a home where my mom used to hate me, it's not you solving it. One way or the other, you have to keep trying to actually get to the bottom of it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get all the answers that you need from your mom, but one day at a time, you have to do it. And you have to remember that I always say this, that you have to be patient with yourself, because the things that you are healing from is not things which happened overnight. You are healing from things which happened 33 years ago. So the healing also is not going to take place overnight just like that. Okay, I'm seeing a comment here. I'm going through this very situation right now. My son is exactly like his useless dad. So I don't know if you would be willing to do a co-host, Bonto. I don't know if you'd be willing to do a co-host, but if you're not willing to do it, then I suppose I can just respond to you here now, I can just respond to you here now. But I believe that I've covered that much, so I don't know if from what I'm saying, are you picking up something? And I appreciate the fact that you are able to, acknowledge that. But somehow you have to deal with that, because you not dealing with it means that you are going to now project your toxicity on your child, and you're going to be raising a child that tomorrow you'll be crying and saying, the reason why this child turned out the way that he did is because he looks exactly like his father. You acknowledging and realizing that there's something that is not right with your parenting, especially with a child that looks like your dad, like his dad. It's one step, but you have to do something about it. You have to do something about it. So that is the topic that I wanted us to discuss today, to say that I know that healing is a process, and we heal from so many things. It's not one thing that we heal from. People think that divorced people need healing. People think that people who have been raped need healing. People think that those who have been physically abused and emotionally abused need healing. But I can tell you now that almost everybody needs healing from something. The inner child always needs healing, because there are so many things which happened when you were growing up as a child, which you were capturing and you were putting in your head. But because you were so young, you could not defend yourself. You just thought those things. And as you grow older, your subconscious mind now wants to protect you from things which happened when you were younger. So some of your behaviors, you behave a certain way, not because anybody did anything to you, but because of the way that you were raised, the way that you grew up. Because you couldn't defend yourself then, you see the need to defend yourself now. So with that being said, I believe that everybody needs healing from something. It's just that we are not paying attention to detail. We are not paying attention to ourselves. We are not paying attention to self when self says, listen, remember that thing that happened when I was 5 years old? Remember when they accused you of stealing money when you didn't, when you were 6 years old? Now you have a problem with anybody who accuses you of something that you didn't do because they beat you up when you were 6 years old for stealing money that you didn't even steal. But as you grow older, you because your subconscious mind is not clicking to say go back to that day, you just think that I just have a problem with people who accuse me of things that I didn't do. But if you can dig deep, you will realize that you need to heal from that day when you were beaten up to a pulp for money that you didn't steal, So with that being said, guys, today's live I needed it to be very short because I needed to just get this point across about healing from having to have a child who looks exactly like your ex who has hurt you. So yeah, if you missed the live, if you're only coming in now, you will get it. I'm going to download it and post it on YouTube, so you will get it there. Thank you so much for joining in, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all. Good night.